Yeah, those don't look too bad. We're gonna run them. Alright guys, so we got the intake off, we got the valve covers off, the headers are unbolted, all the front accessories. We're pretty much down to a couple things up here and then some stuff underneath like the starter, torque converter bolts, bell housing bolts, all that good stuff. So I think we're about to jack this thing up, get it on jack stands, move forward with that. Emma's over here pulling my injectors out of this intake, getting it ready to get cleaned up and go on her truck with her nice new purple lid. If anybody's interested in a set of Dart Pro 1 Cathedral port heads, they will be freshly worked. We're going to send them off, have them gone through, have a valve job and such done. They do have 660 springs, and they will come with rockers for the training upgrade. You can email us, see if they're still available, and get a price. Shipping is available on the buyer's dime. These cylinder heads will be for sale as soon as we get them back from the machine shop. All right, so we got this thing jacked up. We got the headers out. He's undoing the starter right now. And we're pretty much down to motor mount bolts, torque converter bolts, and bell housing bolts. Couple little connectors and sensors, and this thing's ready to come out. We're gonna get this chain on this thing and we're gonna be ready to pull it. We'll get our rinky-dink cherry picker over here. Get this thing yanked out of here. Alright, so we got this bad boy out. Got it on a stand. This is what Panda looks like without a heartbeat in it. Try to get this thing back together over the weekend. Get it put back in one night next week. So I got all the bearings pressed in the rocker arms. Now it's time to assemble them on the shaft rockers themselves. We've got our shafts laid out, we've got our rockers laid out, we have our spacers, our bolts that bolt the shafts down, and then we have our instructions. So we're going to get into this. If you guys don't know about this kit, this is a really awesome kit. We'll link it in the description so you guys can check it out. They have it for stock heads, cathedral port, and rectangle port, along with several different types of aftermarket style heads. So depending on what set of heads you're running, they have the setup for you. Alright, so I'm going to show you guys what we got going on here. The bigger holes on this section of the shaft are going to be for the rocker arm bolts themselves that bolt them down to the heads. Now these three smaller bolts are for the Allen heads that came with the shaft rocker kit. That's what's going to bolt the sections of the shaft down to the tray here. And you have these that ride on the outside of the rockers. So essentially you want to line one up on each side of that center bolt hole. And then I like to drop a little drop of wool on both sides. And gets another spacer on this end. And we're going to do the same thing on this end. Now, if you're running LS3 heads, you want to make sure that you get the intake rocker in the right position. They do go in a certain spot. both rocker arms and both spacers on there. And drop that bad boy down into place. Get them bad boys started. All right, so we got our stock trunnions knocked out of the rockers. We got our shaft rockers assembled. We got the cylinder heads on the short block, along with the push rods and the rocker arms. So the shaft rockers are torqued down, ready to go. We are running ARP head studs, so we torque the head studs to a first pass of 25 foot-pounds, second pass of 50 foot-pounds, and a third pass of 70 foot-pounds. And then if I'm not mistaken, the small inside bolts at the top of the heads got 28 foot-pounds. And now we've got the chain on this thing. We're about to get ready to put it back in the truck and start getting stuff bolted up and ready to go. I've talked to a tuner, Adam Wolf, and he's supposed to come out Friday and get some time with the truck and hopefully get it dialed in, woke up, and making some more power. To get this thing stabbed back in the truck and start getting the intake, our headers, our front accessories, and all that bolted back up. We do still have to get a belt that's 1 inch shorter. We got to call down to O'Reilly's, one of our sponsors for the channel and the truck here on YouTube. We've got to call them, get some fluids and some spark plugs down here. And then from there, it's pretty much just waiting until the tuner shows up. So let's get this thing in the truck. So today after work, we stabbed the engine back in the truck, got it all bolted up. And after DJ left, Emma went to the house and handled some things, and I went ahead and got the converter bolts in, got the headers bolted up, got most of the front accessories back on. Actually got all the front accessories back on. I just got to get a shorter belt. I am going to take the aluminum shroud, fan shroud off the radiator and try to put my fans directly on the radiator. I've got a couple smaller fans to add to the radiator, and it's a lot of fans, but we're trying to get this thing to stay cool and stop and go traffic when we're in parades, car shows, and trying to get in and out of LS Fest this year. We're pretty much down to a few small things to get this thing fired off, but we still have to assemble the LS3 Trinity Intake from BTR. We'll probably do that tomorrow, get the O-rings and everything put on it, try to get it all buttoned up, get the fuel rails and injectors bolted in it, clean the throttle body, get it put on there, figure out our vacuum sources and all that, try to get this thing sitting on the truck and get our fan situation taken care of. Luckily, we do have a few more days before Adam shows up to tune this thing, so that's not a huge deal. All right, guys, so it's time to put the intake on. We got the fans mounted to the radiator. We got that aluminum fan shroud gone. We got the two new fans wired up. And we got the radiator installed in the truck. Radiator hoses are on. We're down to a few small things, and then we're going to be ready to fire this thing off. I just kind of wanted to show you guys what's in the box, what comes in the box, what you may need, an additional piece that you may need if you drive-by cable. Give you guys a rundown if you were to order one of these and have one shipped to you, what you would need to do to put it together and get it on your vehicle. So the first things first, there's a card in there with a QR code. You scan that QR code and it will take you to the install directions for this intake manifold. I highly recommend you do that because not only does it tell you specific things on what bolts and O-rings go where, although you could probably figure that part out. This intake does have torque specifications for the runner to plenum bolts and the runner to head bolts as well. It's important to make sure that you use the correct torque specs and sequences. Follow the instructions. That way, if you mess anything up and have to call BTR, you don't look like a... We've got the intake itself. It does come out of the box. It looks like it's all bolted together. But if you turn this thing up, you realize it only has 2 bolts in it, caddy corner from each other. So we need to take these runners out, put our O-rings on, put all our bolts in, torque them all to spec, and then we can put our intake seals in, which is going to be an O-ring style gasket. Get this thing ready to bolt on the cylinder heads. You do have a port in the bottom. You can drill that port out, and it has a bolt, keeps it nice and concealed, nice and hidden. These flanges right here with the bosses are going to be for your fuel injectors and fuel rails. Of course, these are for the intake bolts directly. And then if we turn this thing up, we have another port here that's already open for a map sensor, and then we have our vacuum for our brake booster. Me particularly, I'm running the built-in map sensor within my Holley. Figure out exactly what I want to do about this. I may just put a map sensor in if I have one here, run an actual map sensor. That way, for one, I can get away from the single bar, and 2, I won't have to drill or tap or plug. I do have 2 ports right here on the side. So if you wanted to run your crankcase to that, your catch can, you got one on each side here. It does come with some hardware. We've got an elbow that goes in our big plug for our brake booster, brass fitting to go in a port here to run to a vacuum source, and then we've got a plug for the other side. A miscellaneous bag of hardware here. Means that this intake is made for an LS3 application. It is designed for the drive-by-wire throttle body in mind. So if you're running a drive-by cable throttle body, like my Holley Sniper 92 mil right here, you're going to need to pick up a bracket like this that's going to bolt in between your throttle body and your intake and allow you to set up and have an adjustable throttle cable. That particular setup comes with 2 gaskets and a nut and bolt. So that means we can give our other gasket to Emma for her intake and throttle body. All right, so I'm gonna blow this thing apart, get our O-rings on it, get it put back together, torque to spec, and try to get this thing installed in the truck. We are gonna have to go ahead and put our injectors, fuel rails, get our fuel lines made. We got a crossover line to make for the front, figure out the map stitcher situation, all that good stuff. All right, so after trying to put my injectors in, I learned something new and I would like to share it with you guys. And that's if you are running a LS3 Trinity intake, you are also going to need lower LS2, LS3 injector O-rings, and this is not one of them. You're looking for an orange O-ring. Here I'll overlay a picture of the diagram the BTR gives us for injector O-ring selection, along with which of the injector hold down brackets we'll need. The LS2 and LS3 O-rings on this chart show to have a little bit of a bigger outside diameter than the rest of them. And that's what we're looking for this intake right here. Jason's pretty sure that he's got a set of those at his house. He's going to run and see real quick. So in the meantime, we're going to work on getting the throttle body on this thing and go ahead and get this thing bolted down to the truck. I do have to make one fuel line to cross over the front from fuel rail to fuel rail and get my fittings in the fuel rails. I may go ahead and mock the fuel rails up just so I can make that one hose, but we're going to go ahead and get that ready, try to get this thing bolted on the truck. That way not having the correct O-rings doesn't really hold us up any more than it already has. All right, so we got this thing ready, put together. We got this thing put together and ready to go on the truck. Got our throttle body on with our throttle cable bracket. Got our injectors, our fuel rails, our crossover line. Did go ahead and add me a vacuum port here because I forgot about my vacuum reference regulator. So that's where that's gonna go. Did change my mat plug out. And extended my little vacuum line here. I'm working with what I got here, people. Of course, there's my fresh source for my PCV. Alright guys, so it's been a couple weeks since we got the intake and heads and everything put on this thing. We got the shifter in it. We're going to go take it to lunch, see how it does. I had a slight misfire when Adam came to tune it. We thought it might have been a plug wire because those plug wires were old and they had seen some heat and stuff, a little bit of fluid intrusion. So we swapped the plug wires. While I was under there swapping the plug wires, I noticed the round style coils that I had a little bit of coolant on them from where my old radiator was leaking. So I thought, not a bad idea to go ahead and put the later model square coils on it. So we did that. Now we need to drive it. We are going to drive it later tonight, but we're going to run it to lunch right now and test out the shifter, make sure it shifts through the gears, maybe roll the tires over a couple times for you guys. I don't know if we're going to have time to actually go out and test this thing before LS Fest, so I owe you at least a little bit of a burnout here at the end of this episode. Go around this corner, we'll do another one. I'll shift
it. All right, take two.
All right, guys, so that's going to be it for this episode. We got the new BTR Trinity Intake put on. We got the rectangle port heads put on. We got this thing tuned. We took care of a couple other miscellaneous things. And we went out and did a little bit of testing. Not testing like we should, but we got a little bit of testing in. We are still going to try to squeeze in a little bit of tire smoke and testing before we head out for LS Fest. We wanted to go ahead and get this video out. Thank you again. Huge shout out to Jeremy, Paul, Kyle, and everybody else over at BTR for standing behind what we do and hooking Panda up with this killer intake setup. You definitely feel it come alive a little bit more than it did before. Man, at 40 mile an hour, it's an absolute handful. So we're excited to get out there with Burnout Wars and have fun up at LS Fest East in Bowling Green, Kentucky next month. If you're needing any LS or LT performance, parts, then head over to brun2leracing.com or email us. We are direct dealers for them, so we can help you out with part selection, getting them to you, drop shipping, whatever you may need. We're here to help. Or if you want to go straight to the source, go to brun2leracing.com and shop around and see what all they got. Huge thank you again to BTR and everybody over there. You guys make sure to ring that bell for notifications. Drop us a comment below and let us know how you like the episode. And until next time, if you're not following us, grab that button. It's important to make sure you use the correct torque sequence